Forget take your child to work day. Today, it's bring your TARDIS to life day. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Kevin, I'm a geek, you are watching Kevin the Geek. And welcome to another New Who Doctor Who review. And today we are checking out another episode that is a little bit clickbaity from the title. Yeah, we've had The Doctor's Daughter, we've had The Next Doctor, now we've got The Doctor's Wife. And yeah, at least it didn't go down the route of what I thought it was. It was quite a clever clickbait in a little way, to be perfectly honest with you. But I am going to get into the main bulk of this review very, very shortly. But for now, if you are new, please do subscribe and turn on notifications. And if you are new, then you won't be familiar with how I do my Doctor Who reviews. So every review gets a score out of 100 by scoring 10 categories, a score out of 10. And I use those scores to help me when it comes to ranking and grading these episodes. So make sure you stick around to the end of the episode to find out what score I give to this episode.
I'm the TARDIS.
No, you're not. You're a bitey mad lady.
But let's start with Surrane Jones, the eponymous Idris / the TARDIS, the embodiment of the TARDIS. And for me, I grew up knowing Surrane Jones from Coronation Street, where she was Karen. Well, she later became Karen MacDonald because she got married to Steve MacDonald. I can't remember what her surname was before that. But yeah, Karen MacDonald. And she was a very loud-mouthed, shouty Mancunian. Now, the only other thing that I have a vague recollection that she appeared in, and I remember thinking it was good. I remember nothing about it. I need to maybe have a look at it at some point again. But that was a detective show with Ray Winston, which was called Vincent. The first series, there was literally only 4 episodes. And I remember thinking it was absolutely fantastic. I need to see Series 2 when it comes out. Series 2 came out. I never ended up watching it. So I don't know. I don't know whether the second series was any good. So for me, Surrane Jones, knowing she's going to be coming into Doctor Who, I was a little bit apprehensive because it depended on the writing. But speaking of writing, this was written by Neil Gaiman. Very, very big coup to get Neil Gaiman for Doctor Who. Also, I'm told, because I'll be completely honest with you, I don't know Neil Gaiman. I don't think I've read anything he's ever written. So I can only presume and believe the hype that surrounds Neil Gaiman. He is not, to be honest, the style of stuff that he writes sounds like stuff I would be interested in, but I've just never read anything about it. So maybe, again, that's something I'll have to check out. And maybe I'll do a review of Neil Gaiman's books or stuff like that in the future. Wasn't he actually involved in Good Omens? Because that was something with David Tennant and Michael Sheen. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because obviously Michael Sheen is in this episode, so I'll come to him in a moment. But if that was something, then is that a good place to introduce me to Neil Gaiman outside of Doctor Who? Let me know what your thoughts are with Good Omens, because I've heard good things. I have heard good things. Maybe I should react to that on the channel. But what we got from this story, it was something clever. It was something witty. It was something humorous. It was something dark.
Fear me. I've killed hundreds of Time Lords.
Fear me. I've killed all of them.
And I do have to give mega props to a writer who is able to take all of these different elements and manage to put them together in a way that is very believable. And obviously it helps when you do have great actors performing the roles. And like I said, we've got Surrane Jones in this. She was brilliant in this. The dynamic she had with Matt Smith was fantastic, and it needed to be, because the whole episode hinged on this dynamic between the TARDIS and the Doctor. Because the TARDIS, it's always been that additional companion that, in essence, we never really think of. And the line in this episode that I truly love was when the Doctor said to Idris,
You know, you have never been very reliable.
And you have.
You didn't always take me where I wanted to go.
and the response that we got from that,
No, but I always took you where you needed to go.
I just think that pretty much that tiny exchange there is probably the fundamental basics from which this whole episode was probably then built. Taking the Doctor, who, of course, in this episode, we start to see the really dark Doctor that will come up more in later episodes.
You gave me hope and then you took it away. That's enough to make anyone dangerous. God knows what it will do to me. Basically. Run!
If you just took it out of context from this episode, yeah, maybe you think, is that a little bit out of character, a little bit not quite the Doctor? Which you could argue kind of is the case, but is also not the case. Because you've seen him angry. You've seen the Matt Smith version get angry before. For example, I mean, the most notable one probably was the one in Victory of the Daleks, where he was really attacking the Daleks when he's trying to work out what their plan was. But I think that the depths at which he gets so angry about someone having done harm to the Time Lords, that feels a little bit out of character based on the sort of nonchalance kind of pushing away that you had when he mentioned the Time Lords back in, I think it was in the 11th hour. But no, I think there is always something deeper there with him. And to be fair, we kind of touch on it in a lot more detail in the 50th anniversary, which is why I think just taking it solely on this episode and out of context, it could feel a bit weird. But when you add in all of the other different stuff, it doesn't necessarily feel weird and out of place for him as an actor. Sorry, as a character in this particular episode. I will say that Amy and Rory were, to an extent, quite bland in this episode. They didn't do a lot apart from running around. And I think I said last week when I did my review of The Curse on the Black Spot that there was something in that bugged me. That is kind of a bit of a recurring theme. And it happens obviously again in this one. And this, I said I would kind of touch on it in more detail in this review. I am fed up by this point of the constant killing of Rory.
How long have you been here?
2,000 years I waited for you, and you did it to me again!
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
And I don't know if anyone else felt like that at the time. But because I think I'm watching them a little bit more frequently for doing these reviews, and I'm being a lot more analytical with them, it's things like that that's actually kind of sticking out to me. I mean, what they did with it made sense in the episodes, and you know, it made sense for last week for trying to give them a bit of an emotional kind of moment, and here they tried to give it an emotional thing and a play on the psychological aspects with House. But as a viewer, I'm just fed up with seeing it. And you've got to think, by this point, we've now had it 3 stories in a row. we had, and basically 3 episodes in a row as well. You know, Rory was seemingly killed in the start of Day of the Moon, the second episode of the two-part opener. You had it last week in the pirate story. You have it in this one. I can't remember if he dies or theoretically dies again next week in the Rebel Flesh two-parter, which obviously I will see when I get to that, which if it does, I will probably get even more so annoyed, to be perfectly honest with you, because, yeah, 4 episodes or 4 stories on a bounce, there's no need for it. I mean, it would make more sense if there was, like, a reason behind it, but it just, beyond trying to do something emotional, it doesn't feel like they're doing it, and it doesn't feel like it's landing all that well.
Tell me why I shouldn't just kill you both now.
Speaking of House, Michael Sheen playing the disembodied villain of the episode. You never see him other than a cloud of green smoke and some mood lighting. You never hear anything other than this voice. And what I like as well, for an actor with the esteem and the prestige that Michael Sheen has, it was very low-key. Because he didn't even appear, they didn't even really mention him in the Doctor Who Confidential episode that tied in with this story. And I did, because I wanted to see what his thoughts were about playing in Doctor Who. But no, there was literally no mention. And unless you see it in the credits, most people probably wouldn't be aware, because it's not very clear that it is his voice. You do have to listen a bit more, but it's, yeah, it's when you listen hard enough and you know it's him, you go, oh yeah, I can just about hear the subtleties of his voice. But the rest of the time, if you're just watching it, you would have no idea that it was Michael Sheen. Which in a way is a good thing, because he is an actor with prestige that could potentially overshadow something, but I don't think he would. And I've said it before, there was a big poll around the time when they were trying to work out who was going to be replacing Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, and a lot of fans wanted Michael Sheen to be the newest Doctor, the next Doctor. I personally wouldn't. I'd want him more to play the Master, because I've seen him be a really dark character, a really morally complex character, one that I found so fascinated watching him in. It's a movie that I don't think many people will have seen, and it's a movie called Unthinkable, where he plays an American soldier who is a converted Islamist and becomes a terrorist, sorry. And he has to be tortured in order to try to locate the location of some nuclear bombs. And for a performance where you're in a race against time, you're trying desperately to find a nuclear weapon to prevent it from going off and killing many people, weirdly, there are moments in it where you do actually feel sorry for him. And there's very few actors that would have the ability to pull something like that off.
I love my country! You people crap on it! I love my religion! And you people spit on it! Just remember something. I'm here because I want to be here!
It is not a movie for the faint of heart, I will say that straight away. But if you think that might be something you would enjoy, I would highly recommend watching it. You know, you've got Michael Sheen, you've got Samuel L. Jackson, you've got Carrie-Anne Moss, who was in the Matrix movies, Brandon Routh, who played Superman very briefly for a period of time. So yeah, some great casting there. But I'm going off tangent now a little bit. Yeah, this episode was very strong in a lot of cases. There are elements where you needed a touch bit more to really take it to that final level, to really make it, you know, a nigh on perfect episode in the way that something like Midnight was. But this is a very strong episode. So, that is my review. Let's check out my scores for The Doctor's Wife. And so, there you have it. The Doctor's Wife scores 82 marks out of 100, which makes it an A graded episode. And it's one that I don't go back to nearly enough as I should. I would like to see this maybe less than about 9 or 10 years further down the road. I want to come back to this and see it a little bit more frequently, because I think the idea and the concept behind it is so good, it deserves to be explored that little bit more. But that is my review for this week. Next week, we are going to be checking out the two-part story featuring the Flesh Avatars, which is the Rebel Flesh and the Almost People. So join me for that one next week. But for today, my name is Kevin. I am a geek, and you've been watching Kevin the Geek. Goodbye.